evening. Welcome to the Monday, December 16th, 2024 City Council meeting. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the December 2nd meeting.
I move to approve.
Second.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 3 is hearing of public concerns. Mr. Cox?
Thank you. I have a question for Councilman Betts, and would appreciate an answer. When you first suggested having a meeting of all interested parties to deal with the repair of Huntington Drive, et cetera, were you thinking of that as an informal gathering where there can be give and take, or were you thinking more of a organized meeting?
I'm not sure I understand the difference, but I think I know the general concept you're going for, see if this answers it. What I was interested in is this. When I was sitting here, what I was hearing from the people from Huntington Drive didn't match up with what we had been talking about the last 2 years with you. So there was a disconnect. I'm not saying you were the problem, I'm not saying we were the problem.
Okay.
I'm saying the problem was a very, in my mind, a very inconsistent, they were asking questions and they were making statements of stuff that we had talked about like multiple times. So from that, my thought was, we need to get as many people that are interested in the room as possible to have an explanation. Therefore, that's why I asked, oh, he's not here, but I don't think he'd mind. That's why I asked Bryan, would he mind being there for that, giving information and having a question answer piece. So formal, informal, I'm not sure what that means, but the point is it's not just a one-way lecture. No, it's more of a, here are the issues. Do you have further questions? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. That's what I meant.
No, what I was mentioning was that at the last meeting, I was informed that council has to meet, it's formal meeting, et cetera,
Yeah.
and there have to be, everybody has the time.
Yeah, because it's a video or an audio thing or something. The mayor can explain it better.
No, there's a quorum issue that if you have 3 or more of them in a room, it breaks sunshine law. So they have to be in an organized meeting. You can have 1 or 2 if you want, but the other truth to that is, then the other 3 aren't going to hear what you're saying, right? But you also asked for an off-site meeting, which we can't do because if we do have a full council meeting, we have to record it just based on past practice. Minutes have to be recorded. It's a lot easier for our clerk treasurer if they're audio and he can play them back and make sure he didn't miss something that someone said. So that was where, when you asked for a neutral site, that was a little complicated to grant.
Okay. In that case, if it is going to be in council chambers here, I would highly recommend getting a number of microphones for the audience,
Oh,
so that we don't have to have people parading up and down and wasting
I don't know.
time.
If they're in this front row, it'll pick up, but microphones aren't something we just cheaply
Yeah,
carry
we can
around
say.
here.
The point being that hopefully, I don't know, I didn't want to get a time element, but in a fairly efficient time manner, we can address what I think has been, we have, quite frankly, in my opinion, had a lot of redundancy in saying the same things about what you can and can't do with this type of material and what happens if you use that kind of material, how much of a base, all that stuff I think needs to be explained. And then if folk have questions and go like, well, what are we going to do about it? Can I give you a real quick example of Deerfield? I use Deerfield, where I hail from. Here's to me. I had people come up to me and say, these cements, they're chunks of cement coming out. City didn't do it. It was done prior to the city annexing that property. But it was not done well. And so there was chunks of cement coming out, and it was bad, and it was lumpy. And I had people coming to me at Deerfield. I had an entire condo association come to me and say, we have the worst streets in the city of Bryan. My response is, A, that is not a true fact. I can take you to, and I can't remember the exact,
Avenue
one was B, but I can take you to 3 different places where the streets are much worse than this. So they said, oh, well, we just thought these were really bad. I said, well, they're bad in a context of what you know, and I appreciate that. Their second piece was, so we would like to have the street cement put up, taken up, and asphalt put in. I said, okay. Not a problem, because I already knew, we had a base for that, we could do that. Can I get back with you on an estimated cost of that? And who's gonna pay for it? Because it's gonna be you. Us? Yeah, it's called an assessment. You want the roads improved to that extent? Because I think it can. Brian, where are you when I need you? I think Brian came back with 2.
We gave him the night off to go to his own
No, I don't
birthday
give a
dinner.
crap about that. That was a rhetorical question. It was like, I think it was 2.5 to 3 million. It was an exorbitant amount. So I got back with the condo association and other interested parties. I said, so it's gonna cost around 3 million divided by the number of people here. I've done the math, based on a 20-year assessment. You're all interested in somewhere around $575 a month addition, is that correct? No. Maybe repairing the cement might, over a period of time, might be a better alternative? Oh, yeah. So that would be an example of how that one was kind of taken care of. Now, that's different than Huntington Drive because of the base, and I get that. But the concept of the interaction is the same. I mean, my response is, so tell me what you want. If you want, we can have this done at this amount. And their response is, no, they are all very reasonable people from beginning to end. And they said, no, that makes sense. And no, I don't want to pay that kind of a monthly assessment. And so, I mean, I think that's what I'm after, is when I hear a disconnect, like 2 ships passing in the night, I just assume we not pass in the night and we all have the same facts and understanding. And if you still, not you personally, if people still don't like that answer, I can't control that. I can only control giving you what I know, your response, my response, in a respectful manner, and we go forward. So that's kind of how it evolved, was what I saw 3 meetings ago, I don't know, something like that, was the very first thing that hit me was, I think we ought to have them, because there was probably 20 people here and probably 6 talked or something like that. What they were saying was not registering with what I remember talking about over the last year or so. So I think we can have it here. I don't know if that's an organized, I guess it's organized from the perspective that, like the mayor said, due to sunshine law, we have to all be together and hearing the same things. But we ought to be having a conversation. So like, I think Bryan has, I've talked with him since, Bryan is going to put together, here are the options, here are the downside and potential expense of those options. What is your interest? And the other part to that was, what I think I heard was a lot of people angry, rightfully so. Next day I went out, drove lots of gravel. It was done poorly. And but the response to that was, and I think Mary said it, I believe, is that that was not done right, and the person, the entity that did it, we had an agreement with, they're gonna have to redo it, which is a tremendous expense for them, material and labor, but it was not done right, and they need to redo it. They'll probably redo it when it's like 80
It's
Yeah, spring.
in the spring, or when
It's gotta be a warmer day.
it's gotta be a warmer day so it adheres.
Consistency.
Yeah, so when I talked with the people after that, the people that were involved in actually laying it down, their kind of response was, we took a chance, threw the die, and we lost. And we're gonna pay for that. The but to it is, John, because I've known this particular person for a long time, the but to it is, my understanding from Bryan was the people in Huntington Drive wanted this fixed now. Let's go, let's go. And I said, well, yeah, you rolled the die, it didn't work out, you're gonna pay for it. I'm not sure they would agree that they would, most of them were saying, I just assumed had it the way it was the week before you came. And he said, yes, I understand that, but I thought it might work. So he's accepted his responsibility, both in deed and financially, and we're going forward.
Okay.
And again, the reason it didn't work was the temperatures were just too
Yeah, it
cold.
was too cold.
And the days after were too cold.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. But I had gotten the impression that you were more looking for a give and take. So
Well, I
that
think it can
they
give
come
an
and,
organizational fact. That's why I didn't know how to answer that. I think it can be give and take.
I think it can be give and take, but
Yeah.
there has to be order with that too, right?
Yeah.
Like, not everyone can be speaking from the audience over people. Council shouldn't be speaking over people. I shouldn't be speaking over people. So give and take is fine, but when you have that many people, we have to have some bit of order, or no one's going to hear anything that anyone's trying to say, because they're all going to be yelling over each other.
okay.
Fair enough?
Well, again, so there will be arrangements made for
Yeah.
discussion per
Yeah,
se.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That would be mine.
Be good.
Yeah, I don't, everyone's saying yes.
And I hadn't discussed with the council yet, we're missing one of our members tonight, but I just kind of assumed that we might schedule it for a special meeting on a different night. So we're not doing the other regular agenda items, if that was agreeable, that we could all find
Yeah.
a date that works.
It's fine too.
I don't see any problem with that personally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
again, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And since this is the last meeting of the year, may Santa be kind to all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So-
Merry Christmas, Mr.
Merry
You
Christmas.
too.
You doing here? I remember you.
Yeah.
Up next is item number 4, Clerk's Treasury Report.
Let's see, council has received kind of an unusual packet of month-end data for the month of November. Transition from our previous finance software to the update that we've been planning on for a couple of years took place over the transition from November to December. So this month actually, from a technical standpoint, our last day of November in the finance world was November 26th. And that's what these numbers reflect. It's possible that it's going to be suggested that we'll have some November entries that we'll make in December. In that case, these could change a little bit, and I might or might not bring it back to you. But right now, this is the end of November as we know it.
Well, I would like to say, because I was very much aware of and involved with you and your staff, what was going on at the time was, as Mary knows very well too, the budget process, which is not a small process, and an entire, quite frankly, turnover of, from this payroll personnel situation to this payroll personnel situation. That was a tremendous amount of work, and I just want to express my appreciation to you and your staff for that.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Item number 5 is an ordinance. John, page number, Marie?
Ordinance number 53, 2024, an ordinance authorizing the salary ranges and classifications in the compensation program for the city of Bryan, amending ordinance 624, 2023, and repealing any portion of the ordinances inconsistent therewith and declaring an emergency.
Good evening, council. Before you, you have the new salary ranges for the city with classifications. Again, some of this we have to adjust based on minimum wage, some of it based on cost of living increases. The Budget and Wage Committee both agreed, if you agree with passage, that the non-bargaining employees will receive a 4% cost of living increase this year, effective January 1, 2025. Any questions on the wage ordinance?
I'll move to suspend.
Second.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Mary?
And I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Also, and I know we're going to get into one after Mr. Dominic comes up, but I would just like to express my gratitude to the Budget Committee, the Wage Committee, and a little bit personnel with wage, because we, on top of everything John's office and staff are doing with the VIP transition that I'm so excited to learn how to use next week, we also created an entirely different handbook for the employees, as well as a very lengthy budget cycle that had a lot of questions. They were great questions. It was great negotiating conversation, but I appreciate the involvement and the hours spent in that, so I didn't want to miss you guys. So you can have a number and read, sorry.
Yeah.
That's my fault, I interrupted
That's
and went
okay.
off script.
Number 6 is a, did we approve though?
You approved number 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, is it number 6 in ordinance? Will you please number and read?
I will, thanks. Ordinance number 54, 2024, an ordinance establishing the pay rate scale for seasonal workers in the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of Bryan, making it effective January 1, 2025, and rescinding ordinance number 1, 2024.
Good evening, council.
Evening.
This is the annual pay scale for my seasonal part-time employees. Here lately, we redo this every single year due to the minimum wage going up. So therefore, it affects a lot of my pay for the different categories we have within the Parks and Recreation Department for the seasonal employees. So this will take effect, as John said, January 1st. The reason I bring it to you tonight is I have a couple of girls that work over at the preschool that will be in session January 6th before we could pass it on that evening. So I wanted to get it in your hands so they were ready to go on January 6th.
There's no discussion. I'll move to suspend.
And I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Suspend.
Item number 7 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 55, 2024, an ordinance providing for annual appropriations for the city of Bryan for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2025, and declaring an emergency. And I'll take this one. So this is the annual appropriation ordinance for the 2025 budget. The overall budget is a big number. City of Bryan's 2020-2025 budget totals $73,125,000. It's about $16.5 million more than the current budget. But we have some very significant capital projects in this budget. $13.1 million is budgeted for the secondary treatment process at the wastewater treatment plant, which you're all well aware of. There's $1.4 million in this budget for an additional warehouse at the electric department. There's $500,000 for fire suppression upgrades that are necessary at the power plant. So those total most of the difference. Of course, as normal, wages and health insurance costs factor into a lot of the changes in the rest of the operating budget. The general fund budget is $8.86 million. So that's a 5.4% increase over the current year. The wage committee and the budget committee have been presented all of this data, and to my knowledge, they are supportive of this document.
I just want Wes to know I still want to flush my toilet, so thank you.
Mr.
Yeah.
$15 million.
Right. I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
and I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Steve?
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 8 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 56, 2024, an ordinance adopting the updated City of Bryan personnel handbook.
Council, as we've said many times, we have been working with John, our clerk treasurer, HR director Tricia Lyons, and director of utilities Derek Schultz, on a number of things, just trying to gather within this personnel handbook. It has not been updated to any extent since 2019. Some of the major changes really reflect what the current hiring requirements are for new individuals. Very hard to ask someone to come work for a new employer and tell them that they are on probation for a full year and that they don't have any time off other than their earned sick time for that full year. So some of the changes we have requested in this handbook that is going to be presented to you tonight and tomorrow to the BPA in hopes of passage is all employees with the exception of police and dispatch, because they are on an FTO program for the first almost 3 months of their tenure at Bryan PD. So they're going to stay on a 1 year, but every other employee will be, or rehired, reclassified, will be on a 6-month probation instead of 1. After that 6 months, the employees will receive 40 hours of vacation accessible to them. The PD and dispatch that we talked about, those employees, they will also get that benefit after 6 months. They'll just still be on that probation. 2 additional holidays, New Year's Eve, and then a floating holiday to be determined by the mayor and director, and that it will not overlap with any existing 2-day holiday. Increased clothing allowance by $50 for non-bargaining employees. An added bereavement leave. What we found was a lot of communities around us are actually giving days off. We've been requiring them to use PTO for this time, so we're going to ask that they be given 3 days based on the family group that you had. Updated drug and alcohol policy. The city is still not agreeable with the use of state law changing, and still has a zero tolerance policy to that, but we have to update our handbook. And then also added a social media policy, because we do find more and more that employees and all of us, we just use social media in our day-to-day, so we had to create kind of a do and don't policy for everyone on staff. You've had the opportunity to read the handbook. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
My only comment is I think it makes us more competitive because a number of changes that took place have already taken place in surrounding areas. So I think it should help for us to be a little more competitive on the employment range.
And we felt these were low-cost changes, right?
Yeah.
Like, to help, yeah, but thank you.
That being said, I mean, I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
and I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Steve?
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 9 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 57, 2024, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into memoranda of understanding with the IBEW, IUPA, and OPEA, extending certain changes made to the personnel handbook to bargaining unit employees.
Council, again, this goes in line with the handbook. Instead of having union employees wait until their negotiations that are subsequently a year or 2 or 3 off, we're asking for you to allow us to enter into memorandum of understanding to give those benefits we just discussed to the bargaining units as well. Again, we are trying to attract good employees, and that includes our union employees, so we want to make sure they get the same benefit as well.
Well, not to mention the disconnect is gonna be confusing,
Yes.
trying to keep track of that.
Well, I would hate to be the payroll person if that were the case.
It's like, oh, wait, these 5 yes, those 12 no?
Sure.
Yeah. So I will move to suspend.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Yes,
Jim?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
and I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 10, ordinance, John, please number agree.
Ordinance number 58, 2024. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a work authorization agreement with Arcadis US Incorporated to provide construction and residential inspection services for the city of Bryan's wastewater treatment plant, secondary treatment improvements project. Phase 1, in an amount not to exceed $740,000 for the construction services and $270,000 for the residential inspection services.
Just super excited to get here, so, all
or
right,
that $15 million.
that's right, yeah. So, as John said, what this is a work authorization for oversight and construction engineering during the project that you folks approved the contract with Peterson for. So we're just looking to kind of tie up this is the last big loose end on it before we start working there. If you agree, we'll get that signed and get it in the bag.
I did have a question.
Sure.
It talks about material testing and so forth. Arcadis is not doing that, correct?
No, they kick that back to us. I mean, what they do is say, here's a selection of companies that you can use. Any one of them we're good with. So they just kind of point it back to us. We choose one. We've got 2 or 3 that we've typically used over the years. So it kind of keeps it out of their responsibility circle. It's not a problem for us. It's real simple work. The responsibility for the testing itself falls on the company that we hire.
Okay.
They report back to us, and as long as everything's good, we have no issues.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
and I'll move to approve.
Second.
Steve?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Wes.
And then item number 11 is set the time and dates for the 2025.
Yes, so before we get into that, I want to explain something that's missing from our typical agenda, and that is the election of the president and vice president of council. I knew that Mr. Hoopy was not going to be able to make tonight. I really think that vote needs to be with all council members present. So Mary will just kind of go into the next year until that January 6th as the president, and then you guys will have the opportunity to choose and vote at the 6th. I wanted to explain that. I don't think it's fair if we know someone is excused from a meeting that we have that vote. It should impact all of you. So I asked Mary if we could remove that from this agenda and put it on for January 6th. So you'll be seeing that in a few weeks.
Fine with me.
It's good,
Okay.
no, thank you.
And then we are asking for you to set the times of the council meetings for 2025. Again, they will be at 5:30 PM unless you request the change of time, first and third Mondays of the month, unless changed upon special request. We are requesting today that Martin Luther King Day be moved to the Thursday, January 23rd, and that Labor Day be moved to the following Tuesday. And then Ready, Set, Relax, we believe is still going to be, Mr. Oswald, the first Monday of November, is that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we're asking for the
I
meeting.
was looking at them, like going, hey.
I know I catch on pretty quick most days, but we're going to ask for that to be moved to the Tuesday following. So if those are all okay and agreeable with your calendars and time frame, just need a motion to accept that.
I move to approve the calendar.
Second.
Steve?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
That concludes everything on our agenda. Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to say?
You know, it's been a privilege working with everyone this year. Probably the hardest year being the mayor, to be honest. And I appreciate you guys standing with us on that. And I did not know I was going to get tearful. I'm so sorry. But we have a great team here at the city. We have excellent leaders. They have impressed me so much, even in court cases I never thought we would be in. John has taken the clerk treasurer's office and enhanced it on a technology level in a way that I didn't think could happen in a year and a half. so far, and I'm very appreciative of that. I also want to thank you for allowing us to hire an HR manager. That has been such a weight off of my day-to-day schedule, and she's doing an excellent job, so I appreciate council's willingness to open up that position. We also have had great success with our new IT person that's really bouncing between this building a lot and police and fire, and I think has been proven to be very helpful to them. So it's been a year of changes. It's been a year of challenges. Proud of everyone that works in the city, and grateful to be able to continue this work. So thank you for your support and for always making sure that when we're doing things, it's for the betterment of the community.
Thank you.
Thank
Jim,
you.
do you have anything?
It was purely by coincidence that I pulled out a Kleenex as the mayor.
But I
know
got
you
it
did,
put together.
We saw the tears.
I got it together quick.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any department heads? Newspaper?
Have a good Christmas.
Mark, do you have anything?
Well, I just want to thank you guys for having me back next year, again, at some point. I think everybody recognizes that you need somebody local who can be here more for you, but I appreciate the trust and confidence you placed in me, and looking forward to getting through some of these issues moving into next year.
Thank you. With that, I need a motion to go in executive session to discuss pending or imminent litigation.
I'll move so.
Second,
Steve,
Yes.
John,
yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.